Hey everyone, Rob here from TheSnapCast, and today I'm going to be doing a deck tech on Titanshift. I have been playing this deck now for about 3 weeks. Started off on Moto, and then decided, you know what, I really like this. I bought it up on paper, and I took it out for a shot. And I need to tell you, this deck, this is the real deal. If you're going to play Shift, honestly, you need to play this unless you want to play Cryptic Command or you want to play blue. You want to have Bring to Light in your deck, then go ahead and splash blue. But if you're just all about abusing Valakut and bolting your opponent just by playing a land, this is the deck you need to play. So we're going to break it down. We're going to go through my card selection, the reasonings behind the breakdown for each number of cards that I have, and we're going to go through the sideboard as well. So if you look at the mana base looks very heavy, which is typical of your normal Shift deck. Now, it's only 2 colors, so why 27? Well, we have 3 natural forests because we don't always want to be fetching up mountains whenever we have things like Sakura Tribe Elders, Colony Heart Expedition, and Search for Tomorrows, which only allow us to get basic lands. Also, you kind of want to play around Blood Moon too, because even though a Blood Moon takes you off of the Valakut plan, you still have Primeval Titan. So you want more than just the minimum 2 forests in your deck. And having the third forest helps out with that. And if you suspect Blood Moon, then you need to try to get your second natural forest on the board as early as possible, because once your opponent realizes what you're on, they will be very eager to slam Blood Moon and hope that they're going to win the game now. So that's the reasoning behind the 3 forests. After that, now you see we have 7 mountains, and that is just to increase to our add to our mountain count. Our grand total is 13, and that lets us activate Valakut earlier if we don't go on the Shift plan, and instead we are going to be slamming Primeval Titan or using our mana spells to cast additional lands each turn. We want those lands to be value then. We want those lands to deal damage. So we have 7 natural mountains with that. And also with them being the natural mountains that they are, it allows us to use them sooner as mana. After that, we have 3 Cinderglade and 3 Stomping Ground. Now the reason for the 3-3 split on this is if you go 4-2 one way or the other, it has its own detrimental effects. If you have 4 Stomping Grounds and 2 Cinderglades, now you have too much land that if you need to use it early on, that you're going to have to pay that 2 life. And now the same can kind of be said about Cinderglade, but instead of paying 2 life, you're now a turn behind. So with the 3-3 split, I feel it's perfect. A little bit later in the game, you're going to have your 2 basic lands in play, so Cinderglade can enter the battlefield untapped. And yes, later in the game you might need to shock yourself, but having the 3-3 split allows you to kind of have that option of not doing so. If you play Primeval Titan and you need to follow it up with an Explore, well, lands enter the battlefield tap, so disregard that train of thought. But if you're able to play more lands and you can get those Cinderglades out later, you can use them sooner without having to pay 2 life, which you could already be hard pressed on your total life total. Another big difference from the Bring to Light version or the Rug version of Shift and the straight red-green is we run 4 copies of Valakut the Molten Pinnacle, which is amazing. Having 3 Valakuts in play and then just playing 1 land and dealing 9 damage either directly to your opponent or clearing off 3 small threats on the board is a great feeling. It is just you cast nothing. You haven't cast a single spell yet, and yet you've already done 9 damage just by doing something that your opponent cannot prevent you from doing, and that's playing a land. And then we have our fetch package, which is 7 fetches total. We have 3 Verdant Catacombs and 4 Wooded Foothills. Now looking at the list, I am going to change it. I am going to swap the 3 Verdant Catacombs for 3 Misty Rainforests. For 3 Scalding Tarn. And the reason I'm shifting for the 3 Scalding Tarn is that gives me 3 more fetches that I can get mountains with, and we like getting mountains. And also with the Scalding Tarns, we kind of provide some false information with that. we lead them to believe that we are on the rug plan. Now, as soon as we fetch up something that is not blue, they'll catch on. But if you play an earlier scalding tarn and fetch a stomping ground with that, they might just think you need green, especially if you suspend search for it tomorrow. So any way you can mislead your opponent, just the slightest bit, to change his line of plays or thinking, that's going to be great for you because you're going to be the one benefiting from it while he's left kind of wondering, is he on red-green or is he on rug? All right, now let's get to the creatures. 2 Spellskite main. This is a fantastic last-minute decision that I ended up in, and I don't look back on it once. So originally, the 2 Spellskites would be taking the spot of 2 Relics of Progenitus. Going to the GPT, I ended up not having Relics of Progenitus with me, and I had to quickly try to figure out what to do. With that, I had searched the store. The store had none. So I went to my binder and started looking at, okay, what can I bring in? And I started looking at my sideboard of what I can move from my sideboard to the main deck. I had 1 Spellskite already in the sideboard, so I moved that over, and then I added the second Spellskite to the deck, so I finished out my 60. And then I had 1 open spot left in my sideboard because I only had 14 cards. So I started going through, and that's when I came across Fracturing Gust. I was like, this is going to be a great card. It's a good sweeper for Lantern. It's a good sweeper for Affinity because we were able to ramp and hit 6 lands by the end of turn 3. So going into turn 4, we will have 6 lands on board, and we will be able to Fracturing Gust, no problem. The next 4 creatures are very common to your normal Scapeshift list, and that's 4 Sakura Tribe Elders. And generally, I sacrifice them as early as possible. If I feel there's no need to rush, if I know I don't have Primeval Titan or Summoner's Pact in hand, then I will go ahead and I will use them just to ping for 1. Ideally, as a Scapeshift player, you want your opponent at 18 life, because then you can kill them with 7 land on the board if you're going to Scapeshift. So, and that's where we want to be with that. If not, though, and you want to slam Titan early also, and say this is a later play, then go ahead and sacrifice him at the end of your opponent's turn, so then you can search for that basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then when you move to your untapped step, there you go, you have it available for you. And then the second win condition you have in your deck, some would really want to argue this is your primary. Your primary is definitely Scapeshift and Valakut. Primeval Titan is just an amazing plan that you can have on the side because they can slaughter games you, and they have to choose one, either Scapeshift or Primeval Titan. They can Surgical Extraction you to get one of those cards out. They could have a Leyline of Sanctity, which gets rid of the Valakut plan, and now you're on Primeval Titan beats. So there's a lot of different things that your opponent can do that would normally cripple a Scapeshift player, but being on the Titantshift list, it allows you to get around that. You have multiple avenues to destroy your opponent. And Primeval Titan's enter the battlefield effect and his attack effects are just absolutely stunning in this deck. And whenever he enters the battlefield, you get to search your library for up to 2 land cards. Any 2. They could be 2 Valakuts, Cinderglade, Stomping Ground, Mountains, whatever you need. And you get to put them on the battlefield tapped. Generally, my play with this is I search up 2 Valakuts. Now, some might be asking, why 2 Valakuts? That's overkill. You don't need it. Or what if Valakut isn't active yet? So you got to look at the board state. You need to know where you're moving forward from your Primeval Titan play. Generally, when I play Primeval Titan, I do already have 5 mountains in play. So I have the option. If there is an immediate threat on board I need to get rid of, say Liliana, so I can keep Primeval Titan alive. Or there's a creature that's just beating me down. Just a small guy. I can go ahead and bolt that. Or if my opponent's already at 3 or less life, then I'll go ahead and bolt him for the win. But the reason I like to pick 2 Valakuts is because it gives me assurance against land destruction. That being either your Fulminator Mages, your Tectonic Edge, your Crumble to Dust, and things like that. And the reason I say I bring up Crumble to Dust, that's my biggest fear, is Crumble to Dust taking Valakut away. And Crumble to Dust only exiles one of the lands in play, and then your opponent gets to search your hand, library, and graveyard for that non-basic land and exile those as well. So if you already have 2 in play, you're guaranteed to keep Valakut out, and your opponent would then have to have back-to-back Crumble to Dusts, which I don't know what decks run multiple or more than 2 Crumble to Dusts, either out of the side or main deck, other than maybe a land destruction deck. And even those are few and far in between. So snagging up 2 snagging up 2 Valakuts is, I feel, one of the better, and sure, it's greedy. It's a greedier route, but I think it's one of the safer routes as well. Moving on to our spells. Now we got 4 lightning bolts. It's crowd control. Get your opponent again under 18, or at 18 at least, so then you can scape shift sooner than later. And it's just overall great because you can attack planeswalkers with it, small creatures. You can 2-for-1 if there's just an oversized Tarmogoyf out there that you need to get rid of. And I like boarding out lightning bolts too whenever I need to bring in other cards in my sideboard, which we'll get to. 2 Summoners Pact. I don't like really having too much more. Summoners Pact is great because I'm able to use it to either get Primeval Titan, or if I'm really in a pinch, I can use it to get Sakura Tribe Elder. If I really need that 4th land for whatever reason, and I know I can survive at least one more turn after I cast Sakura Tribe Elder, and then after I pay for my Summoners Pact, then I'll do that. Now, the only downfall with Summoners Pact is, I know many of you are familiar with this card, but if you're not, search your library for a green creature card, reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. At the beginning of your upkeep, pay 2 and 2 green. If you don't, you lose the game. And the ruling on this card, so if you move too quick, say you're, I don't know, in the finals, it's game 2, you see you have the match win in front of you. You've come back from your opponent having Natural Tron, landing both World Breaker and Karn. You've killed both of them off. You have 2 Titans on board. And the next turn, you're just going to swing and kill them. And then, of course, you got 4 lands entering the battlefield that are potentially going to be doing a lot of damage to them also because of Valakut. If you go through your upkeep phase and you say draw and you pick that top card off of your library, you've entered your draw step. You have elected not to pay the upkeep cost for Summoner's Pact, and you will lose the game. This happened to me. It was one of my worst and most embarrassing Magic moments to date, if not the worst. Just as soon as I went to draw, my opponent called me on it. Hey, you cast Summoner's Pact last turn. You just entered your draw step. And I looked down, and you're absolutely right. The judge asked, what the question was. We explained it, and the judge gave the ruling of as soon as you enter your draw step, that means you elected not to pay the upkeep cost, or not to pay, the upkeep cost of Summoner's Pact. So that was it. I just lost game 2 after an amazing comeback, or what would have been an amazing comeback. And now I have to attempt to beat Tron one more time in a sideboard game, which Tron matchup for this, hitting natural Tron early is not good at all for me. So because of that, I actually went out of my way and I made a Summoner's Pact emblem token. And yes, it is cheesy, it is lame, and I'm going to show you guys because, well, I feel like you deserve to see it. Yep, I'm going to have that printed out. I'm going to have it ready to go so that whenever I play Summoner's Pact, that will come out and that will go right next to my deck. So I know, hey, I just cast this. Mr. T is going to pity me if I don't pay for it. Why? Because I'm going to lose the game when I shouldn't be losing the game. All right, so that's that. We're done there. Moving on, we've got 3 Explore, which is, again, another common card for your Scapeshift lists. You can play an additional land this turn, and you get to draw a card. So it does double duty for you. It gets you an additional land ahead of your opponent, and it cantrips. And that cantrip might be that extra land for you to play. You might only have that first land drop in your hand, and you're like, you know what? I want to see if I can't, utilize this card. So you go ahead, pay your 2, draw your card. You might get to play an extra land or not. That also allows you to, again, with Valakut, deal additional damage. And that's always a good thing. Anytime you can get Valakut to deal more damage, you want to do that. Coney Heart Expedition, we have 4 of these. So the reason we want 4 of these is we want this card. We absolutely want to see it. We might even want to see it a couple of times because of how great it is. So Coney Heart Expedition, it's an enchantment for 1 and a green, and has the landfall ability. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a quest counter on Coney Heart Expedition. Remove 3 quest counters from Coney Heart Expedition, sacrifice it, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. It's because of this card that I'm able to cast Primeval Titan on turn 4 with a 7th land in play. That's also key, the 7 landmark, because if you're on the Scapeshift plan, 7 is the magic number to kill your opponent if he has 18 life. And also, it allows you to play around Mana Leak, which being able to do that is always a good feeling. So the way you maximize this and you get to that point is it's a sequence from turn 1 up to turn 4. And you really have to stick with it. That sequence being on turn 1, you need to suspend Search for Tomorrow. Search for Tomorrow, we'll go ahead and skip down to it. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. And it has a suspend cost of 1 green for 2 turns. So on your first turn, you're going to go ahead and suspend this. On your second turn then, you're going to play your second land, and you're going to cast Coney Heart Expedition. Even if you have Sakura Tribe Elder in hand, you want to cast Coney Heart Expedition right now. Now, of your lands in hand, the ideal land to have, the follow-up for this, on turn 3, is a fetch land, because that will allow you then to get 2 landfall triggers. So on turn 2, you just played a land, and you cast Coney Heart Expedition. Ideally, you either shocked yourself, or you have natural land, or you have a basic land in play, so you're able to do this. So you go ahead and knock that out. Turn 3 then, you go ahead, you cast Sakura Tribe Elder. You play a fetch land. Landfall trigger, Coney Heart's at 1. At the beginning of turn 3, your Search for Tomorrow resolved, because you cast on turn 1. So turn 2, suspend, is down to 1. Turn 3, you go ahead and you cast it. So that's your first landfall trigger. Your fetch land is number 2. And what's good about this is even if it's not a fetch land, even if it's just a basic, that basic or Cinderglade or Stomping Ground, that will put you at 2, and Sakura Tribe Elder will move you to 3 then. So all you need is a third land. Sakura Tribe Elder in play on turn 3. Coney Heart goes to 2. The end of your opponent's turn, you're going to sacrifice Sakura Tribe Elder, dig for your land. Coney Heart Expedition goes to 3. Remove 3 quest counters, sacrifice Coney Heart Expedition, search for 2 additional land, and now you're going into turn 4 with 6 lands untapping. This is a great moment for you. Hopefully you have 4 or 5 mountains already in play, being a mix of basic mountains, Cinderglades, and Stomping Grounds. And you have at least 2 forests also, so you can cast Primeval Titan if you have Summoner's Pact in hand, or if you have Scapeshift in hand. So that is the sequence you want to do that in. You want the turn 1 Search for Tomorrow, turn 2 Coney Heart Expedition, turn 3 Sakura Tribe Elder. That is how you will maximize your land generation. So going into turn 4, you get to play land number 7. Another key spell that gives away this deck is Prismatic Omen. Now we only run 2 of these. As great of a card as it is, all the other cards that we have though, they're there for necessity, and you probably shouldn't shave any more of them just to play Prismatic Omen. If any, I would shave the 3rd Explore to add in a 3rd Prismatic Omen. But I don't know how that would be. I like having the 2 Prismatic Omens because you don't need it to win. Now where Prismatic Omen is great is its ability. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their own types. So what that means is fetch lands now count as mountains. Valakut now counts as a mountain. You can Scapeshift your opponent if he's at 18 life with 6 lands in play, because all of them enter with that same effect. That 6th mountain enters, sees the other 5, and triggers Valakut. Now, what's really good with this is, say your opponent has been gaining life. You can pull all 4 of your Valakuts and 2 other lands, and then you have it. You are dealing so much damage at that point. The ruling I got from a level 1 at the GPT, and if this is wrong, please comment below, let me know. But the ruling I got was when you have 2 Valakuts enter the battlefield, and you have Prismatic Omen in play, so both of these Valakuts are entering as mountains, that each Valakut will only deal 3 damage to you as it enters the battlefield, whereas all of your other lands will deal 6. So say you had 2 Valakuts and 4 mountains. Those 4 mountains will do a grand total of 24, and then each Valakut will do 3 for a total of 30. Now, some might say that instead it should be each Valakut will still deal 6 damage because it sees itself and the other Valakut. And the reasoning for that argument is that whenever you scape shift with 6 lands, the Valakut mountain enters the battlefield and acknowledges itself at the same time. And that's how you're able to scape shift with 6. I tried to make that point to the judge. The judge said, no, this is the ruling, and that was that. I still won the game, but I don't think he was 100% correct. So if you could, please let me know down below in the comments. Provide me a link to a reputable source, whether it's an L2 judge or if it's some errata that's actually clarifying it. But let's continue. So we've already covered, we have 4 searched for tomorrows, which is standard of your scape shift list. And then the key card of itself, scape shift. For those that don't know scape shift, you sacrifice, whenever you cast it, you sacrifice any number of lands, search your library for up to that many lands, and then put them on the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. And this is the key card. So I kind of just explained it a little bit ago with the interactions with Prismatic Omen and Valakut. But the way scape shift works is if you don't have Prismatic Omen in play, you need at least 7 land. The reason you need 7 is because you're getting 1 Valakut and then you're getting 6 mountains. The wording on Valakut is whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, if you control at least 5 other mountains, you may have Valakut deal 3 damage to target creature or player. So all 6 mountains are going to enter at once. But the way Valakut sees it is that Mountain 6 enters the battlefield with Mountains 1 through 5 already in play. So Valakut will get a trigger on the stack and say, I want to do 3 damage to a creature or player. It also sees the same for Mountain number 5. Mountain number 5 is entering with Mountains 1 through 4 and Mountain 6 in play. So Mountain 5 will also get a trigger on the stack. Same with 4, 3, 2, and 1, as they see all the other ones already in play as it's entering the battlefield, even though they all enter at the same time. That's the ruling for scape shift. Now, whenever your opponent goes to scape shift you, one thing to always keep in mind, have them play it out. Or are they keeping track of their mountains? Do they have enough to kill you? Or are they just trying to get some value out of it to reduce your life total and then hopefully beat you down with whatever creature base they have, whether it's Obstinate Baloth or Primeval Titans or Tri-Belders or just whatever it is, bolts. Have them play it out. Never just automatically assume that when scape shift hits the battlefield and it resolves, you've lost the game. All right, now let's move to the sideboard. This is where it gets fun, and this is where some of the challenges come in. So I'm going to go ahead and spread this out a little bit. I didn't have it completely set up for you guys, and I apologize for that. Oh, and I just lost an Obstinate Baloth, so I'll have to be sure to get that moved over before I play any games again. So the biggest threats to this deck are going to be decks that cause you to discard, decks that are just flat out quicker than you, and full dedicated combo decks. So Crystal Shoal, Ad Nauseam, those are bad matchups for you. Just because if they have it, they have it. You don't have much interaction, really. The main thing you can do against Crystal Shoal is like, I don't even have it in my side, but the main thing you can do is just try to keep their graveyard empty of Crystal Brand, but of course they are open to Through the Breach. Outside of that, you just need to hope they whiff. It's a very glass cannon combo, So for the sideboard on that, we really don't have much. Same with Ad Nauseam. You can destroy like their Pentad Prisms and other artifacts that they may bring into play to assist them with generating mana. But again, outside of that, there's not a lot really you can do. So instead of focusing on the matches that we already deem essentially unwinnable, we focus on the big matches that we know we can win with the appropriate cards. So we're going to go through and just each card, I'm going to explain when I would and would not bring it in. Sudden Shock. Sudden Shock is a great burn spell for Infect, and I also learned for Jund. It can also be good against other decks that feature Scavenging Ooze if you want to get rid of him early and you don't want him to take advantage, gain a bunch of life, get really big, and try to kill you that way. Sudden Shock is a 2 mana, 1 in a red, instant split second. Deals 2 damage to target creature or player. That split second, for those who aren't familiar with it, whenever you cast this spell, no other spells can be cast, no abilities can be activated that aren't a mana ability, like tapping for land. That's it. So, if your opponent allows you to untap, and he has Fulminator Mage in play, you are able to cast Sudden Shock onto it, and he can't do anything about it. He cannot sacrifice it to destroy one of your non-basics. Nope, not allowed. Vice versa, I've seen a Scapeshift player bring in Sudden Shock to kill my Sakura Tribe Elders. And again, Sakura Tribe Elder cannot be sacrificed to find me land. Another good time to bring in Sudden Shock, like I said, was Infect. Right when they go to pump up Glistener Elf, they go to pump up Inkmoth Nexus or Blighted Agent. You just cast Sudden Shock and they can't do anything about it. Because they can't be like, oh, well, Mutagenic Growth, or I'm going to, just any of their other pump spells. They can't do it. Nature's Claim. Nature's Claim is great for any artifact or enchantment hate. The downside to it is, yes, the opponent does gain 4 life. But it's okay, because with the number of Valakuts you're running, with your Prismatic Omens, with your land ramp, that 4 life, it has not been detrimental to me yet. Because generally you're answering their big things. It's good against Boggles. It is good against any deck, any white deck that has Leyline of Sanctities. It's good in affinity matchups. It is good. There's just a lot of good matchups for you to bring in Nature's Claim, Tron, Lantern Control, all of these decks that rely on artifacts that help them find things, that help them fuel their engine to get to their stage 2 or stage 3, as Jerry has discussed previously, where they want to be in the game, and then closing of the game. Nature's Claim can help you stop that, derail them, and put you back on track. Now, that only gets rid of 1. We want something a little bit more global, and because of our ability to ramp, we have Fracturing Gust. And Fracturing Gust is great for all reasons. Number 1, you destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Okay, you might hit a couple of yours. You might hit your own Connie Heart Expedition. Try to play around that. Hopefully you don't have one in play, but if you do, it might just be worth it for you to lose that Connie Heart Expedition and gain the 2 life from that enchantment being destroyed. Same with Prismatic Omen. You might have to sacrifice it to stay alive. But, so you destroy all artifacts and enchantments, and then you get to gain 2 life for each one destroyed. If you land this against Affinity, if you land this against Lantern Control, that's pretty much going to be game. They have so much to do to recover from that, and it's incredibly beneficial. Now, the reason we don't have more than 1 is because of its increased mana cost, and we don't want to have to worry about making sure that we do that. We want the Nature's Claims, and then Fracturing Gust is a good side just to get rid of everything and for you to gain life. Next, we have Grafdigger's Cage. Grafdigger's Cage, for those unaware, it's a 1-cost artifact. Creatures can't enter the battlefield from graveyards or libraries, and players can't cast cards in graveyards or libraries. So really, this is our one answer against Gristleshul. Whenever they go to Goryo's Vengeance, they can't do it. They can't bring Gristlebrand from the graveyard. They can't bring, if they're running the Emrakul one, they can't bring Emrakul. And what's really good also is this, I'm pretty sure, gets around Nahiri. I would have to look that up. I believe her ultimate state, search your library for a creature card, put it on the battlefield. It gains haste until end of turn. So, and then after that, you sacrifice it or exile it. Again, I don't know the words 100%, but if so, Grafdigger's Cage is another great choice for that. Another big deck out there, a popular deck, Coco. Collected Company decks. This shuts them down. So again, those are the main matchups I would bring this card in against. Obstinate Baloth. Again, there's two of them. I accidentally removed one from the sideboard as I was moving cards around. This is good in the mirror match, just as another creature to beat down with. It's really good against Jund because of Liliana's ability. Whenever they go to force you to discard a card, choose Obstinate Baloth. Because if a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard Obstinate Baloth, put it on the battlefield instead of putting it in your graveyard. So you get to cast Obstinate Baloth for free. Another good line with this is, say you have Summoner's Pact in hand, and you have the ability to pay for Summoner's Pact mana-wise. You have, the 2 and the 2 green. If they go to minus Liliana, and say you have Primeval Titan already in hand, or you have Scapeshift in hand, and that's the route you're going to go ahead and cast Summoner's Pact, search up Obstinate Baloth, and then after that say, okay, the ability's good. You go to discard Obstinate Baloth and you put it on the battlefield. The next card, Malira Sylvic Outcast. Now, most sideboards only have one. I like having the two. The reason for this is Infect has been on a rise, and after this past weekend, it's going to be the same. The Modern Open in Indianapolis featured 5 different Infect decks in the day 2 meta, 2 of which top 8'd. One your normal Simic, your blue-green, the other a Golgari, a green-black. So with that, not only do I have Sudden Shocks to help me out, but if it's the green-black version, Sudden Shock does nothing against Phyrexian Crusader. Phyrexian Crusader is a 3-drop, 1 and 2 black, 2/2, Burst Strike, protection from red, and protection from white, Infect creature. So because of that, I need to have another way to deal with it, that being 2 copies of Malira. Crumble to Dust is the next card. Crumble to Dust, its addition came a little bit later in my playing with the deck, and its main matchup is Tron. I do bring it in the mirror match. It's not necessary for me to bring it in, but it is good because, well, if I can get my Rug Scapeshift opponent off of Valakut, there's not much more he has left to beat me with. But I still have Primeval Titan to beat him down with if he gets mine. It's good against Tron because if you can get him off Tron, it stops them almost completely. They can't cast Ulamog as early as they want. They shouldn't have enough mana for World Breaker, for Karn, or anything like that. It buys you more turns for you to do what you want to do. And that's hopefully kill them early. I was able to finish the game against Tron with Crumble to Dust after he had already made it. And the biggest thing you need to keep an eye on is which copy of the Tron piece do they have 2 of on the battlefield. Generally it's Tower, but if it's not, just aim for the one that's out there as a 1 of, because again, it only exiles the target land in play and not all lands in play with the same name. Then the last card to close out the sideboard is 3 Anger of the Gods, and pretty self-explanatory. This is great against any low creature deck. Your Cocos, your Burns, your Zoos, even Infect this is good against. Maybe not the red-green version because Phyrexian Crusader is pro-red, but if he has multiple creatures out there, you can still hit them. So that could be really good. Speaking of Infect, I need to backtrack. Crumble to Dust, Inkmoth Nexus. That's another great creature or great land that you can hit with it. And I'd be hard-pressed to bring it in because I'm already going to be bringing in the Sudden Shocks and the Maliras and probably 1 or 2 Anger of the Gods. So bringing in Crumble to Dust is probably too much. But that does it, though. That's the sideboard. That is what I have come to. It has worked phenomenally for me, and it's been doing very well. Just some results for you. I'll go through my 2 score pads I have from the last 2 tournaments that I played in. The first one was the GPT that I won. First round, I played Scapeshift, and I beat him 2-0. Really wasn't too much of a contest, I should say. He just had issues hitting either Scapeshift or getting the land count in order to kill me with Scapeshift. After that, it was Jund. Now, Jund is a difficult matchup because he has a hand disruption and things like that. But if you're able to get your engine going, you're able to get the active valid cuts and just play lands, then it's, you're going to do great. And I was able to beat him 2-1. American Control. Control was an interesting matchup as well. You pretty much have to force him into having the counter or not. And then late game, start playing around Mana Leak. Yeah, you might have the ability or the option to either cast Scapeshift or cast a Primeval Titan. Cast a Scapeshift, so then you can still play around Mana Leak. And I ended up beating American Control, again, 2-1. My fourth round was against Collected Company, and I was able to beat him 2-0. And the biggest thing is I used bolts and sudden shock to keep him off of Viscera Seer. That was the biggest thing, is if you keep them off Viscera Seer, they can't go infinite life. They can't go infinite damage. So you choose one or the other. Either Malira. If Malira is the only one out there and they don't have Viscera Seer, go ahead and knock out Malira. Or if they have Viscera Seer out, knock out Viscera Seer. But leave up those bolts. Leave up those sudden shocks if it's a sideboard game. You cannot afford to let them go infinite life. You just can't do it. And then the last round, or round 5, this is Lastless Choice, I played Ad Nauseam. And it's one of those games. Either you have it or you don't. And generally, he's going to be the one that has it. I lost that one 2-1. In the top 4, I played Coco again, and I beat him again 2-0. And it was the same Coco player from round 4. So it was one of those reassurance that Coco is a good matchup. Then in the finals, I ended up playing a Kiki Jeskai list, and it was a great match. But I was able to cast 2 Summoner's Pact and get Primeval Titan on the battlefield, and that allowed me to get up to 8 land, pay for it, and then just move forward from there, and ended up winning the GPT, earning 2 buys for GP Charlotte. So this takes me to last weekend, TCG Player States. Round 1 opened up against Boggles, and I was never more thankful to have Spellskite in my main, because I opened up and I was able to turn 2 Spellskite. As soon as I saw Glade Clover Scout enter the battlefield, I knew what he was on, and I immediately played Spellskite and said, all right, let's have some fun. And I beat him 2-1. Round 2 was against an Affinity player, and I won 2-1 on that one as well. Affinity is a unique matchup just because they can go wide, but sometimes they kind of burn out. And an interesting interaction that everyone needs to remember, and I know it's probably basic information for some of you, but Valakut is a colorless card. If he has Etch Champion on the battlefield, Valakut can kill Etch Champion. So definitely use that. I kept him off Etch Champion, which is going to be his main way of winning, and it did very well. And 2-1 Affinity. Round 3, I played Jund, and again, Obstinate Baloth proved to be a house in that matchup, as Liliana to discard Obstinate Baloth did very well for me. Now my Jund opponent, I'm pretty sure he had a misplay, and I don't know his line of thoughts. I did not ask him. He didn't seem too happy about his loss, and then whenever he left and he didn't make top 4 or top 8, again, I wasn't going to go up there and ask him. But so he cast Fulminator Mage, and I had a Valakut in play. He allowed me to untap. I don't know why he didn't sacrifice Fulminator Mage. I don't know if he planned on trying to use it for beats or what. But he did not immediately sacrifice it to destroy Valakut. And I had Sudden Shock in hand. So I was able to untap, upkeep, draw. Still nothing from him. Cast Sudden Shock, and I killed Fulminator Mage. Allowed me to do what I needed to do to clear the board. He had a pretty big Tarmogoyf on the field, so I played a couple lands thanks to enter the battlefield effect of, the attack effect of Primeval Titan. Sent 2 bolts to Tarmogoyf, killing Tarmogoyf, 1 bolt to Liliana, killing Liliana, and then 1 bolt went to him for 3. Had he destroyed that Valakut, I wouldn't have been able to do as much. But that was that, and I ended up winning 2-1. Then round 4, I played Affinity, and this guy, he had it all. There was nothing I could do against him. He ended up beating me 2-0. And then round 5, I played the Rug Scapeshift match. And again, I beat that one 2-0. So that's 2 matchups I have on paper with it. I've played it a couple times on Moto, and I haven't lost the Rug Scapeshift yet. Now, maybe it's just bad draws on their part or what, but just I was able to beat them every time. So then we move into top 8. The first round of top 8. I don't even have the deck written. It was Jund. It was green-black. It was the Rock. And it was kind of like green-black Planeswalkers. I didn't know if he's on Coco or not. But it ended up being good for me. I won 2-0. So that was good. And he was even at 21 life. Thanks to Kitchen Finks. So even then I was able to take him down. The semifinals. Now this was interesting. Lantern Control was my matchup in the semifinals. I'd never played Lantern Control. I don't know how this matchup's going to go for me. I have an idea, but we have to see, because I know he has a plethora of ensnaring bridges. He's going to control what I draw. I know he has surgical extraction. I need to figure out how I'm going to beat this. Game 1 went in my favor. I ended up winning it. And then game 2 comes around, and I see the surgical extraction. I know he has it, and I have to play around keeping Valakut off of the top of my deck so he can't cause it to go to the graveyard and then surgically extract it. And the way I was able to do that is just keeping fetches up, keeping Colony Heart Expedition up also. So Colony Heart Expedition reached 3 quest counters. I wouldn't immediately pop it. I didn't want to, because if Valakut came up, I did not want Valakut to end up in the graveyard. So I had to play around that. I was able to successfully do it and ended up beating him 2-0. And they weren't even long matchups. I think the biggest problem that he has with this is he relies on Ensnaring Bridge. He relies on not being able to be attacked. So hopefully his opponent will have a few burn spells. But my method of attack, my primary method of killing, is by playing lands or casting spells to play lands. So he can't completely control that with the number of spells I have main deck to play a land and just the plethora of lands that I have. I really think that Lantern Control is one of my better matchups. And then we go to the finals, and it's Tron. Game 1, I blew him out. I had everything to get Primeval Titan out early, and I was able to do at least 16 points of damage on turn 5. So that was outstanding for me. And then game 2, that was the one that resulted in my pack token. For those that don't remember, let me show you that nightmare again. Yes. All right, I will have that. I will utilize it, because that is the one where I lost the game myself. I'm in the finals. I was just moving too quick. I was starting to get sloppy with my play, and you can't do that, especially at your larger tournaments, because it could be day 2. You could be riding on that winning in for top 8 at a GP or an open, and if you let something that easy cause you to lose, it's really hard to keep your mentality, to stay off tilt and come back from that, because I was furious with myself when that happened. But thankfully, though, I was able to come back. I was able to turn the game around, and in game 3, I was able to cast my Scapeshift and kill him. So I ended up winning. Yes, I won not just a Modern GPT, but I also won the Modern TCG Player States, which I had the playmat hanging up back here, but as we can see, it has fallen. Tape can only do so much to hold up a playmat. The playmat looks pretty good. Kind of basic, if you will, but I enjoyed it. I got 50 TCG player prize wall points, which is like 50 TCG player monies, and we decided to split the cash prize before we entered into our first rounds for top 8, because, well, I mean, we're all walking away in the positives. But that's my report for the deck. That is my deck tech. If there's anything you guys missed, anything you want to see, please let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe to us, because following this, there are going to be more videos of me playing the Titanshift as I continue to grind, continue to prepare for the Modern Grand Prix in Charlotte. And if you see me there, please come up, say hi. Let me know you like the cast. Let me know you hate the cast. Why? Why do you hate the cast? What don't you like about it? Is it me? Is it my crappy mustache that I appear to be growing? Let me know. Is Alex's voice just too soft and gentle for you? Is Jerry too loud and obnoxious? Is Chris just too absent? Or is Bobby just not there? Let us know, and we will rectify anything that we can within our powers and make the cast better for you. So thank you again for watching. Please check out our website at www.TheSnapCast.com. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/TheSnapCast. We post all the latest news. The biggest one that just hit is they announced the upcoming blocks, the sets, and everything else for the rest of 2016. So that's exciting. I can't wait to go to Kaladesh and see what's going on there and see what great cards and mechanics are going to come out of it. And we also post all of our podcasts, not just on our website, but also on our Facebook page. And then, since you're already on our YouTube channel, go ahead, click below, like and subscribe. Do it, please. Once we hit 100 subscribers, we can finally make our YouTube page youtube.com/TheSnapCast instead of youtube.com/random letters and numbers, because that's really hard to say over the internet or over a podcast whenever I'm trying to give people access to all of our stuff. We do have a Twitch stream at twitch.tv/TheSnapCast. We don't have a schedule. We're all very busy. Bobby just moved. Chris is out in school down in Texas right now. Alex is doing crazy farm adventures out in Illinois. And then you got Jerry up in Virginia doing random stuff, and I'm down here in Georgia. So we are spread across the U.S. right now. But we will keep giving you everything that you guys could ask for to the best that we can. Well, that's going to do it for me today. Thanks again for watching.